On RLS Day 2021, I'd like you to picture this. It's a hotel room in Monaco and it's the winter of 1873. In the room, two men are writing letters, love letters, and both their letters are going to the same woman. Her name was Mrs Sitwell, and she's the inspiration for the novel I've been working on recently. I think most of you will know that Stevenson met Mrs Sitwell the previous summer when they were both staying in Suffolk, and they formed some kind of instant connection. And that connection led to a correspondence that went on for several years. On his side, it's personal, intense, and sometimes passionate. And you have to wonder what exactly happened to set all this in motion. Was it a full-blown physical love affair? Or was it just the crush of a young man on an older woman? Louis Stevenson was barely 23. Mrs Sitwell was 11 years older. She was estranged from her husband, a mother of two, and a noted beauty. Reading the letters from Stevenson to her, they don't really feel one-sided. Of course, we'll never actually know what she wrote back because she made him promise to destroy all her letters to him. Well, that is a fascinating lacuna for any novelist to think about. And what about our other letter writer? Sidney Colvin, Cambridge Slade Professor of Art and a Fellow of Trinity College, Cambridge, was in a serious relationship with Mrs Sitwell long before Louis Stevenson came along. He is, at first glance, a stereotypical Victorian, a bit buttoned up, certainly compared to some of Louis Stevenson's more colourful friends. But he was captivated by Stevenson, which is probably why he followed him to the Riviera that winter. I just wonder, as he sealed his envelope, did he know that Louis's letter was taking the same journey? Did he have any idea of the feelings that were in it? Well, if he didn't, he certainly did 20 years later, because when Louis Stevenson died, Colvin became his literary executor and was responsible for taking on the publishing of his correspondence. All of it, including his letters to Mrs Sitwell. Well, what kind of a situation is that for her? The letters from her ex being published by her current partner because they were still together at that time. And you have to say that Colvin, when he published them, even though he edited them heavily, he doesn't really shy away from the fact that his closest friend and his partner had a pretty close encounter back in the day. As for Mrs Sitwell, she did have something to say later about Louis Stevenson's letters, describing them as too sacred and too intimate to be shared. Well, what are we to make of that? Or was she maybe just a bit of a tease? And it brings us back, in the end, to RLS himself, because he is very much part of my book too, and I hope he kind of flickers through its pages as he did in the lives of his contemporaries. I've really enjoyed learning about him, not just through his fiction, but getting to know him through his essays and his travel writing, and especially the letters. And then following on from that, there are all the biographers with such vehement opinions, and academics and commentators who've all pitched in with their ideas about Stevenson and his work. They've really interested me too. But of course I'm not writing an academic treatise. As Hilary Mantel puts it, a historical novelist is not laying out the facts, but making a proposal to the reader. So I'm just going to hope that my proposal amuses or entertains or maybe in forms. I'm hoping with Lewis Stevenson in its pages it won't leave anybody cold. Well, my book's not quite finished. I've given it a working title, which is The Prose and the Passion. But maybe it should be Dear Lewis, after all those letters that she wrote to him that have been lost. Or maybe I should just name it after its inspiration, The Fascinating and Mysterious Mrs Sitwell.